Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. We're here in Southern California at the media launch for the exciting new Kia Stinger high-performance rear-wheel drive sedan. Now this is a car, a Gran Turismo, a car they're telling us they really see competing with the BMW 440i, the 640, these being the Gran Coupes, the Audi S5 Sportback, and even the Porsche Panamera V6. So the big question is, does it? We've seen this car now for almost a year since it was first unveiled at the big auto show, and basically what you've got here is the GT version of Kia's styling. You've got the dog bone grille headlights that look very much like something that you're going to see on a lot of other Kias, but they're quite special of course here. This being a fully loaded GT2, it has everything stylistically that's available on this car, and we'll start with the chrome finishes. This is a black chrome, specifically here on the GT models. I like it. It has almost a black gloss look from a distance. You get up close and it actually has a nice mirror finish that reflects back, and it really looks classy. I really do think this is going to be something we see a lot more of here in the future going forward on other cars. Kia logo right there on the nose. As you look at this, you'll see that the fenders wrap over the front lines and this hood sets flush down inside, sort of a higher end look than you expect in a lot of economy cars. On the hood there you have some nice vents, but those are not functional. Those are strictly ornamental. The vents you see down here in the lower fascia are, however, very much functional. They route air into the brakes. Big brakes on this, you can see through the wheels, Brembo brakes, and these wheels on this are 19-inch, larger wheels. As you go around the corner there, you'll start to see that this does have the proportions of a rear-wheel drive car. Long nose, short deck. From this angle, you can see a few things that you really can't see from the other angle, that being these vents right here in the fender are functional. They're actually pulling air out of the wheel well, part of that whole aerodynamic thing that we were talking about with cooling for the brakes. This back here is where the action is when it comes to the styling on this car. We've seen this theme before on other Kias, the Cadenza, the K900, and the Optima. They all sort of have that fastback roof line, and here you've got the chrome that dives back into the rear deck lid, and this cut line for the door dives right up into that and continues on. Because we have a rear hatch here, this is not a sedan, this is a 5-door hatch, true Gran Turismo style. And coming around the corner, you see this tail lamp comes into the sheet metal here, wraps around, and then it integrates very nicely into a nice concave shape in the back, accented by a built-in spoiler. At the presentation they talked about this. They did not go for a motorized spoiler like you see on a lot of the German cars that lifts up at speed. They've created this design here, which is fixed, less weight, less cost. It actually has the same downforce that a motorized movable one would have. So you've got that look at all times. It's not something that's going up and down, making noise when you're driving. Underneath the car, you've got full pan all the way underneath for aerodynamics at speed. Even the lower control arms on the suspension in the back have plates on the bottom that help them for aerodynamics. The interior of the Stinger is a place that I think will surprise quite a few people because it is elevated up for most Kia models. Not quite up to the same level you see in the K900, which has a lot of real wood and very high quality materials throughout. This still has soft touch materials here on the dash. Up on the top, it's got stitching. Along here on the door panels, you see a lot of soft touch hand stitched materials. The steering wheel as well. You've got a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel here, fully adjustable power seats, and they're quite comfortable, very supportive, and they've got a lot of lumbar support that we can talk about a little later when we get into a more detailed test drive, but there's a lot of adjustments here. Nice, genuine materials. Here we've got genuine aluminum trim on the dash, down here on the center console, and that is metal when you rub it. It's probably going to be something that might show wear sometime down the road. We'll have to wait and see, but it's a very simple design that says Kia, yet it is unique to the rest of the line. The steering wheel here is a flat bottom steering wheel with paddle shifters. They're a nice high quality feel to them. They're very tactile. They're made of metal, not cheap plastic like you see in a lot of vehicles. Overall here, the material quality is a very high order. Because this car has a very long wheelbase, you might be surprised to find that there's actually quite a bit of room back here. The one thing I would point out is that these seats in front do sit down pretty low. putting my feet underneath them is pretty hard. My shoes are rubbing up against the bottom of those front seats, but the actual comfort that you get here isn't too bad. This seat is down low, so my knees are perched up just a little bit, but there is some side bolstering here that sort of does hold you in place. This is a 5-passenger vehicle. We've got 3 cross seating, though I wouldn't want to be sitting here in the middle too long. The great thing about this is the fact that it is a 5-door hatch. These seats do fold down in a 60-40 split, and you actually have a usable load floor back there, just like you would in an economy car. But this is just not something we see a lot here in the North American market, an upscale car with a rear hatch. One of the best parts about that, in addition to the extra cargo space you get, is Kia didn't shortchange you here when it comes to a spare tire. Most brands are really offering you that inflator kit, run flat tires. Here you've got the real deal. Always a good thing. Well, a 2.0 turbo 4-cylinder is standard in the Stinger. The GT here comes with a pretty familiar engine we're starting to see in Hyundai and Kia products. This 3.3-liter twin turbocharged V6. Here it's rated at 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. And in this car, it comes only with an 8-speed automatic transmission. No manuals available, but this transmission is something that's entirely designed and developed and built by Kia, so they've been able to really tailor it to exactly what they wanted for this car, and we'll get to that here on the drive. So the question I always like to ask when we do these tests is, how does it go? Well, it goes good. It's got a nice sound too, especially in sport mode, because you get an enhanced sound. Now you can adjust that manually, or it is tied to the driving modes. You can go into the custom driving mode and tell it how you want it to sound, whether it's the quiet or normal sound or the enhanced sound. So it is artificial, but at least it's a good artificial. Not nearly as artificial sounding as some of the other cars we've tested in the past, but this engine does deliver a lot of torque right off the line. It will spin the tires, especially with the traction control off, and it just makes it fun to drive. This 8-speed automatic transmission, developed by Kia, built by Kia, is exactly what they wanted in terms of tuning. They didn't have to sacrifice the overall performance and behavior by using an off-the-shelf part. It delivers its shifts crisply. That's a tongue twister. It delivers its shifts crisply, and when you use these paddle shifters, we're told actually shifts 10% quicker. I don't typically use paddle shifters when I'm driving because I just don't. But I have used them, and they do respond very, very well. Although, just like any transmission, it will not shift if the computer deems it a bad idea. So bottom line, this powertrain I do find quite pleasing. Very little turbo lag. It's got lots of torque right off the line, and it really does feel like a V8 in all-around driving. And this transmission, very well sorted. So I'm very happy with the powertrain. We're up here on the Angeles Crest Highway now, and this is a great highway because if you're in the Los Angeles basin, this is really the only place you can drive any car without getting completely trapped by traffic. It's actually open. And in sport mode, I have found that that is the best mode to drive this car in up here, because comfort mode is way too soft. You get a lot of the floating sensations that you find pretty common with the traditional American luxury car. Here, sport mode, suspension's a lot tighter, and you can actually start throwing it into these curves and using these brakes and really getting everything that this chassis has to offer. And what is that? Well, Kia actually brought a BMW engineer here to develop this chassis, and that is very evident when you start driving this thing hard around curves and really putting some speed on this thing, because it has the precision feel, it has the balance, and it has the poise that you've come to expect from those German sedans. Now, does it have the complete sense of high-end tool like Snap-on versus Craftsman? That's a tough thing to say. It does feel much better than the typical American sedan, but is it really up to the level of some of those high-end brands when it comes to finesse and polish? It's pretty darn close, I think. This has the variable gear ratio steering, which speeds up the steering ratio when you're in a tight mountain road such as this, or in a parking lot. When you get out on the highway, it slows that ratio down and gives you more high-speed stability feel, so it's not quite as twitchy at speed. Not really noticeable at all when it's changing ratio. You don't really feel any kind of artificial transition that I have noticed with some of the Lexus vehicles that have that system in the past. How does this compare though? We've talked about that. German tends to have a little bit more of a precise feel. This isn't quite as pillowy and pink cloud as a Lexus GS sedan, so to speak. We're not in that price point. All right, my friends, there you have it for my first brief test drive impressions of the new Kia Stinger. My first impressions? Good job, Kia. This is a car that they told us right up front they were aiming at some of the heavy hitters out there in the grand touring segment. And a lot of people would roll their eyes when they said Kia, Porsche, Audi, BMW. But the truth is, this is a car that matches those bit for bit in performance, if not exceeds them in some cases, at a price tag much less. That's Kia's formula, always has been, but here, I really think we've got the quality nuts and the engineering to back that up this time. Now, does it have the same interior bits and pieces, some of the quality, some of the high-end stuff you're gonna find in those brands? No, but you're not paying for that. That's the beauty of it. You've got the type of performance, you've got the type of driving experience here that really ties it all together and gives you what you'd normally be looking for there, but without the price tag. Anyway, we will have a far more detailed review a little later down the line when I get more time with the car. Until then, click right here to see our latest test drive, or click right there, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. I hope you enjoyed the ride.